Good afternoon, everyone. Today, my presentation is Warmed Its Way In. I am Saurav from Medicine 5 and my consultant is Dr. Jonathan. Uh, so, Presenting 20-year-old student from Jamui, Mr. B, who presented with red painful swelling in the left arm and left axilla for past 20 days, who's resolved with some medication given by local practitioner. There's no discharge from the swelling and no such swellings in any other part of the body. There was associated fever for 1 day and the swelling was only swelling reduced only temporarily with local practitioner's medicine. No similar illness in the family and no similar past history of any illness. The patient is on follow for chronic pancreatitis and recurrent dermatophytosis under same CMC under G is on gastro and on examination the vitals were stable. The only remarkable finding on examination was lymphadenopathy, which is a left axillary lymph node 1.5 centimeter, left epitrochlear lymph node 2 nodes 1 centimeter each with some pain and mild tenderness in the epitrochlear nodes, right axillary node 1 centimeter and subcentimetric cervical lymphadenopathy. No other remarkable examination findings. Investigations wise, the only remarkable finding was a eosinophil count of 18%, which is like 1700 eosinophils, which is a mild eosinophilia. So the patient was referred by medicine to dermatology in view of lymphadenopathy and eosinophilia, and the differentials that we consider for peripheral eosinophilia were the following. The first is allergic conditions like asthma and atopy, which can cause rise in eosinophil count. Second thing is infectious etiology like maybe a parasitic infestation, fungal infection, viral infection. Neoplastic etiologies like lymphoproliferative disorder, metastatic solid organ malignancy. Inflammatory cases like EGPA or drug-related causes like DRESS syndrome. Among all of these differentials, asthma or atopy won't explain lymphadenopathy, and there were no systemic findings for EGPA. So we can those things were lower down on my differentials. Considering that tuberculosis is present with generalized lymphadenopathy quite prevalently, so that was one of the conditions on our differences as well. So we went ahead and did a biopsy of the axillary lymph node, and which showed some non-specific reactive changes. Gene expert for the biopsy was sent, which showed TB trace positive. However, there were no concomitant changes found in the lymph node biopsy, such as granulomatous, caseating lesions in the lymph node. So TB could be ruled out. On a bone marrow biopsy, it was otherwise unremarkable bone marrow, but with eosinophilia. So we went ahead and again, since axillary lymph node biopsy was not concluding for any differential diagnosis, we went ahead and did a left epitrochlear lymph node biopsy, which showed a adult filarial worm sitting in the epitrochlear lymph node with some focal granulomatous inflammation in the lymph node, suggestive of filarial lymphadenitis. So as you can see, the picture on the left is a low power view, and the right is a high power view of the dead cross section of adult filarial worm with surrounding granulomatous inflammation. And as you can see in the high power view, there is multiple microfilariae sitting inside the worm's uterus. So in the cross section of lymph node, we can see the whole filarial worm, and as this filarial worm releases microfilaria into peripheral circulation, the symptoms of filarial lymphatic filariasis appear. So today I'm going to talk about lymphatic filariasis. So going through the life cycle of Eukarya bancrofti, there are two hosts of the organism: human beings who are the definitive host, and mosquito who are the intermediate host. Uh, one for, uh, One of the things we came across when we were doing a literature review is we came across guidelines on elimination of lymphatic filariasis by a national vector-borne disease control program, Government of India, where we found that the district where is from in Bihar, Jammu, is one of the endemic regions for lymphatic filariasis. So the clinical manifestations of the disease can be into two types. One is acute presentation and second is chronic presentation. Acute presentation wise, acute adenolymphangitis, which is a host immune response characterized by bouts of sudden onset fever and painful lymphadenopathy. The genitals are commonly involved in males, resulting in painful epididymitis. Second thing is filarial fever, which is a self-limiting fever with no lymphadenopathy. And third thing is tropical pulmonary eosinophilia, which is characterized by bouts of dry nocturnal cough and wheeze. The chronic presentations can be two, lymphedema and hydrocele. Lymphedema is initially a pitting edema, which progresses to brawny non-pitting type, and severe form of which is elephantiasis. Hydrocele can be unilateral, bilateral, causing a severe enlargement of the scrotum. We also reviewed a few case report and case series to look for similar such cases in the endemic region, and we came across three incidences, three examples. First is a case report titled "Isolated Epitrochlear Filarial Lymphadenopathy, Cytomorphological Diagnosis of an Unusual Presentation," in which a 19-year-old male resident of Bihar came presented with painless swellings over the medial aspect of the left arm just above the elbow for 8 months. Second case we saw is second case is the mid-arm and epitrochlear lymphadenopathy, a clinical radiological surprise in which a 18-year-old male who is a resident of Gorakhpur, which is again one of the places which is endemic for filarial disease, presented with painless swellings of the anterior lateral aspect of the right lower arm. Third is a case series of 26 cases by the name Role of Final Needle Aspiration Cytology and Diagnosis of Filarial Infestation, wherein FNSC diagnosis of filariasis were done of 26 cases, out of which only one case reported of epitrochlear lymphadenopathy in a 19-year-old male. So the treatment that is considered for lymphatic filariasis is DEC, diethyl carbamazine, 6 mg per kg per day for 2 to 3 weeks, which kills both the adult and the microfilaria form. Second is doxycycline, 200 mg per day for 4 to 6 weeks, which targets the intercellular symbiont Wolbachia. For our patient, the similar treatment course was followed. So concluding my presentation, what is the take-home message from my presentation? First thing is that uncommon presentation of filariasis such as epitrochlear lymph nodes and any other contiguous lymphadenopathy should always be kept in mind while diagnosing filariasis. We often do not come across such conditions, but if a patient presents with such conditions like epitrochlear or contiguous lymphadenopathy, one of the differences will be filariasis. Also, one of the important things to keep in mind is the importance of endemicity of a disease. So, such certain diseases are prevalent in a particular region, such as filariasis is seen in particular parts of North India, like in Bihar in Jammu in our case, which should also be kept in mind while diagnosing filariasis. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Saurav. Jonathan, do you have anything to add? While we're waiting for him, Saurav, what was the clinical response for your patient and the presentation? Was it, did your patient have any constitutional symptoms, or the presentation was of lymphadenopathy basically? Then we were evaluating in that line.
Ma'am, the presentation per se was a lymphadenopathy with no major constitutional symptoms, which is why we're evaluating for that, and we came across this condition.
Was there any response to treatment in terms of resolution of eosinophilia, improvement in the patient's condition, anything?
Ma'am, the patient is still under follow-up, so we'll have to follow up the patient and get back to the resolution of symptoms now.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're audible, Jonathan.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Yeah, so actually, this patient had, because initially the clinical presentation was a very non-specific presentation. It was a very asymptomatic patient who had just come with lymphadenopathy. And the TB had generalized lymphadenopathy, the TB was also positive. And so we were quite doubtful. But since the clinical presentation really didn't fit into that, is why we actually chased the epitrochlear node despite one node already coming as a TB positive. And that's what led us to this diagnosis. As far as the follow-up goes, yes, this patient is still on follow-up, and whatever we've kept track of the patient, because clinically the patient didn't have any symptoms. Resolution of the nodes and the eosinophilia will only be we'll be able to demonstrate it after about 6 weeks. So once we follow that up, we will know.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any other comments from anyone else?
Yeah, Don here. I think I want to appreciate Saurabh for presenting the case very lucidly, and Janvi and Jonathan for making clarifications. Just couple of questions. First is why was bone marrow done when there was no cytopenias, and that indeterminate TB you were saying is from the expert, or were you able to see AFB in the smear? And second thing is, what are the public health measures which you will advise this patient? I mean, just for the benefit of residents who will be going back to the mission hospital postings, for in your reading, what have you find some of the public health measures we can do for addressing this issue in that part of the world?
First thing is, so the gene expert is what showed the TB to be positive. We didn't find any AFB evidence for it. Second question that you asked is about the public health measures. So importance that we need to know the life cycle of Eukarya bancrofti, for which we need to have cleanliness measures and not not like let the mosquito breed around the region, which will cause decrease in the number of cases. And what is I didn't get the first question. Sorry, the first question that they asked.
No, you answered. Thank you so much. Thank you. I think you clarified the expert part. I was just wanting to know whether it's whether you found the AFB, or I mean, was it the culture proven, or that's the molecular test?
Just the expert, just gene
Sure,
expert.
sure. Thank you.
Thank you, Saurav.
If I may clarify Don's question regarding
Jan.
the bone marrow, we didn't have any cytopenias, but this eosinophilia was persistent, and we just wanted to rule out a lymphoproliferative disorder. Look for evidence of TB elsewhere in the body to support that gene expert positivity. That's why we did the bone marrow.
Thanks, Janvi. I think we'll move on to attack of the